I'm Susan Thompson, and welcome to a little bit of information about how to turn your clay pieces into jewelry. So I'm going to go over the materials and the supplies that I've got here on the table, and then I'll show you how to put a piece of clay that you've created. This is a pendant right here, attach a jump ring, and also what to put it on. I have all the supplies here to at least show you a little bit about that. So the kinds of supplies that I have are some scissors, because you'll want those to be able to cut string or different items. These are different kinds of pliers right here. The ones that you will want to have most are these round nose pliers and then needle nose pliers. There are two kinds of needle nose if you look really closely. These right here actually also are wire cutters. These don't, if you look on both sides. So if you have only this pair, then you'll also need something to cut wire. So if you buy a basic jewelry making kit, it has a lot of different kinds of pliers in it. It's helpful to have one of each of those. And then different kinds of supplies for attaching jewelry to whatever. So we have different kinds of earring supplies here. These are either called ear wire or French hooks there. And these have a big ring at the bottom, which can be really helpful if you're first starting out. I'm going to put a couple of those to the side. And then we have different kinds of pins to put the beads on. These are head pins. These are pretty long head pins, and a head pin is flat at the end, as opposed to an eye pin that has a little ring at the end. And head pins are good if you've got small beads. Eye pins are really great if you want to hang something else from it, like another little bead, and I'll show you those here in a few minutes. So we've got different colors and different kinds of head pins. This is a kind of fancy one that has some, almost a pin, bead at the end. And then let's see here, if you've got some flat pieces that you want to turn into pierced earrings, these are posts. They look a little bit like thumbtacks, but they're flat at this end. That'll be this end that you'll put glue on, and I'll leave one of those out too. And then different kinds of nuts. These are different. This is one size. I like the bigger ones because you know they're going to end up staying on. And then for making pins that you would wear, there are different sizes of pins like here. So we've got a size that's tiny, and then they go up in there are infinite number of sizes. So we've got ear wires. The next are called jump rings. These are the biggest jump ring that I have. They'll probably show up better on the video. And I'll put this one to the side so that I'll show you here in a few minutes how to use that. They come in lots of different sizes. It'll be helpful to have different sizes. In fact, they come in packs with different sizes so that as you're getting started, it's really helpful to have. And even jump rings that come in different colors. Those are kind of fun to use. Here, I've got different kind of beading wire. It's best to use a bead wire rather than a fishing line. I know I've seen necklaces made out of fishing line. They tend to break easily. But this bead wire from a couple of different companies is actually really thin filament of a metal wire that's twisted together. This particular one has 19 filaments that's covered with a plastic, essentially, so that it really will hold a lot. And there are different companies. I also have, this is thin leather. It's actually suede. It feels really good, and it gets kind of fancy. This is a leather cord. It's a thin leather cord. It comes in different sizes and also different colors. This is a thicker leather cord. And you want to decide on the size of cord depending on the size of piece. So for example, if I'm using this size of pendant, this size of cord is kind of overkill, if you will. It's too big for this aesthetically. So you want to end up using something like this. Or the last kind of cord, these come probably 10 to a pack, already finished. They have a lobster claw end and then a chain so that you can decide how long you want the necklace. But these make really nice, pretty simple necklaces as well. So you have lots of different possibilities. What I also am going to show you then is how to best use the ear wires and then how to glue on a flat finding. When you're using, your favorite friend is going to be your needle nose plier. When you're opening something that's round, instead of opening it this way, that actually distorts the roundness. So you want to open it sideways because it doesn't distort it. And so for this piece, I'm going to put my little pendant on here, and we're going to keep it simple. I'm going to use this piece right here and close it, and I have a nice pendant just like that. Easy, right? For earrings then, I'm going to have two choices. If I have the hole that's already big, I can just use this ear wire. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find out where the opening is, and it looks like it's here. So I'm going to bend it sideways. I'm going to make sure that it goes on. This particular one, the hole is close enough to the edge that I can put it on there, and then I'm going to close it. And I have a nice little earring. That was fast, right? If I have a small opening here, I'm going to use a jump ring to attach the clay piece, and what I'll want to do then is to turn the earring itself a little bit sideways. I'll show you how that's going to work. I just did exactly what I told you not to. So let's say the hole isn't as close. I'm going to open the jump ring, put the earring on there, close that back up, and then let's say this is a smaller opening. I want to actually twist it because otherwise the earring won't hang straight. It needs to be turned sideways so that the earring hangs straight. Otherwise it's going to hang sideways. When you put that extra loop in there, it twists it. So there are different ways too that you can attach a pendant to a necklace. I just showed you a really simple one. There are ones like this that all I did was take a piece of cord, loop it through, and at the end I tied some knots. I used a clay bead, and it looks a little bit like a button. It closes like a button. That one's simple. This is actually a button. This one I used jump rings and several strands of this leather cord, and then used actually a button to close it. Did some fancy knot tying there at the end. This one right here has knots that slide so that you can loosen and tighten as you go. That way you don't have to actually have a finding. These are called thumb knots, and I'll show you how to do those here in a second. All right, so to do a thumb knot, I'm going to take a piece of leather, And in this case, I want to see, let's say I want something to hang here. I'm going to add probably 4 inches because I want some wiggle room to be able to use. I'm going to put my pendant on there or not. I can wait to do that. And to tie a thumb knot, the reason it's called a thumb knot is because you actually go over your thumb. So you want a long tail here. I'm going to go over my thumb and I'm going to go backwards from the way that I want the string, the cord to go out. I'm going to go 1, 2 times, and then I'm going to take that tail and pull it through like that. And then I'm going to do the second one the opposite direction. 1, 2, and I want to go all the way around so it goes through both of those loops. Oops. This is the tricky part because I'm doing it with my left hand. There we go. So you have tails on both ends. You can smarten them up there, tighten them up, and then you can snip those ends to a length that works for you. And then all you have to do is pull on the ends to tighten, pull the rest of it to loosen. So you can do a really simple clay pendant and then attach beads to it, glass beads to it. This one also has on this side, I've attached actually they're shell buttons and then the glass bead on top of it. So this is an unfinished clay pendant on this side, and it has this the glazed side on the opposite. All right, so I think that'll be, oh, one last thing. When you're attaching, let's say this earring is flat, it doesn't have a hole in it, and you want to attach a post. The kind of glue that you're going to use either is this E6000 or a 2-part epoxy that has 2 tubes that you end up mixing together. Only these kinds of glues are going to really work. You can't use super glue because it comes off, but you have to use a really tough epoxy. This one right here is industrial strength. It really works well. And then the 2-part epoxy is the absolute best. It takes a little bit of time to cure, and you really only use a little bit at a time as you're working with it. What you would end up doing is making a little bubble, picking up a little bit, and then putting it on the back of there and letting it sit so that if it starts to slide, you're going to check it out. So let's see here, what else? I think that covers most of the basics. When you're using jump rings, remember to, instead of opening this way, open sideways. The same thing with the ear wire. Instead of opening it wide, open it sideways. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to get in touch with me. Thanks for joining me.